One of the easiest ways for confusion to spread across a project is when teams misunderstand the status of the information they're looking at. And what makes it difficult is that on the surface, everything can look completely fine. The model looks detailed, the drawing looks polished, the document feels finished, but the status attached to that information might be telling a very different story. Early in my BIM career, I honestly used to see status codes as just administration, just another field people filled in because the standards required it. But over time, especially managing large multidisciplinary projects, I realized that status codes are actually one of the most important communication systems on a project. Because information is constantly evolving, designs develop, decisions change, coordination progresses, and approvals happen gradually. Risks get identified and obviously resolved, and across all of that movement, teams need a simple way to understand one thing immediately. What is this information currently suitable for? That's the real purpose of status codes within ISO 19650 information management workflows. A file name might tell you what something is, but the status tells you how that information is intended to be used at that specific point in time. And once projects become large enough, that clarity becomes critical. I've seen coordination meetings where teams were discussing information that was still under internal development. I've seen contractors assume information was approved because it appeared in a shared area of the common data environment. And I've seen project teams working completely different assumptions simply because the suitability of the information wasn't fully understood or was missing. That's why ISO 19650 places so much importance on information status and workflow. Now, depending on the project, country, client requirements, or national guidance, the exact wording and implementation can vary slightly. But the overall logic remains very consistent. So let's walk through the statuses people most commonly encounter first. So S0 is an initial status like work in progress. So it's generally associated with information still being developed internally within a task team. At this stage, the information is not intended for wider project coordination yet. Teams are still exploring, refining, and checking and developing their work internally. At this point, it matters because things change rapidly. One of the biggest problems I see on project is when work in progress information accidentally starts circulating too early. The moment unfinished information leaves its intended environment, confusion starts spreading very quickly. So then we have S1. This is one of the most important statuses in multidisciplinary projects, which means the information is now suitable for coordinating it. And this is where projects start become truly collaborative. Architects, structural engineers, MEP teams, contractors, everyone begins relying on each other's information to coordinate interface systems, spaces, and decisions. The information may still continue evolving, but it has reached a level of maturity appropriate enough for your review. And when teams understand this properly, coordination becomes significantly smoother. Then we have S2, which is typically your suitable for information. Generally indicates information that can be shared for reference or informational purposes. This might support planning, understanding, sequencing, or broader awareness across the project. And importantly, it doesn't automatically mean formal approval or authorization for construction, and that distinction matters more than people realize, because projects often move fast, actually faster than communication. S3 suitable for review and comment. So now this is used when information is being shared specifically for feedback, review, or discussion. At this stage, the project team may still be evaluating options, reviewing risks, or gathering comments before progressing any further. And honestly, some of the best conversations happen during these stages, because this is where teams still have the opportunity to improve information before decisions become locked in. S4, as suitable for stage approval, usually represents information reaching a formal approval gateway linked to a specific project stage. At this point, the information has typically gone through significant internal review and coordination process. And this is where accountability becomes increasingly important, because once information starts progressing through formal approvals, people begin making larger commercial, technical, and operational decisions based on it. Then we have a sixth, suitable for project information model authorization. As projects continue progressing, information may move toward authorization within the project information model, or called PIM. This reflects growing confidence that the information is reaching a level appropriate for formal project use and controlled authorization process. Then we have a seventh, suitable for AIM authorization, and eventually some information progresses towards authorization within the asset information model. This becomes especially important during handover and operational stages, because now the focus is shifting beyond design and construction into the long-term operation of the asset itself. And this is where the quality of information starts affecting facilities management, maintenance, lifecycle planning, and operational performance for years into the future. And as projects mature further, status codes often begin carrying even greater significance, especially around formal authorization and acceptance. This is where many project teams start using A statuses. A codes are commonly linked to formally authorized and accepted information across different project stages. As projects mature, statuses often begin carrying more formal authorization, meaning linked to project stages. You'll commonly see A statuses like concept, design, construction, handover, and operations. And because projects rarely progress in one perfect approval moment, some workflows also use B statuses to represent partial sign-off while information continues developing. What matters most is not memorizing every code, it's basically to understand that information maturity develops gradually across the life of a project. Then, eventually, we've got projects that reach one of the most important moments in the entire information journey, the creation of the as-constructed record, which is your CR status, which is generally associated with information representing what was actually built, not what was originally intended, not what was issued months earlier, but the final constructed reality of the asset. And for operations and facilities teams, this becomes incredibly important, because long after construction finishes, people still rely on that information to operate, maintain, modify, refurbish, and manage the asset safely and efficiently. And alongside statuses, projects also manage revisions. And while people often confuse the two, they communicate completely different things. A status explains suitability of that information, and the revision explains change over time. You'll often see revision sequences such as PO1, PO2, PO3 during development stages, and later potentially CO1, CO2, CO3, and further revisions during construction and contractual stages. Again, Exact conventions vary between projects and organizations, but the principle stays the same. Revisions create traceability. They allow teams to understand what changed, when it changed, and which revision formed the basis of decisions at that moment in time. And once projects become large and complex, that traceability becomes essential. The strongest projects I've worked on were never the ones with the fanciest software or the biggest, fanciest, prettiest models. They were the projects where people trusted the information they were working with. And status codes, approvals, and revisions are part of the quiet structure that helps create that trust across the entire project team.